Heidi, and I am here to do a book review today, and actually it's going to be a review of two books because I read both of them in the months of January and February, and those books are Flunked, the Fairy Tale Reform School by Jen Calonita, and then the sequel, which is Charmed, that just came out in March, actually. I think it was March 1st? Yeah, March 1st it came out. So I got an advanced reader copy of this from a Goodreads giveaway, and I ended up reading it and reviewing it before it came out, so that was exciting. So I'm going to do a quick review on just both of these because they go together. So we'll start with Flunked, which is the first book in the Fairy Tale Reform School series, and it has, I know, it says my name on it because it is the copy from my classroom library, and I got it at the Scholastic book sale, and so I thought it looked interesting and picked it up and loved it and ended up getting the second book. So anyway, that's why my name's on it. But this book follows Jillian Cobbler, and she is the daughter of a shoemaker. And the shoemaker is the one who, or her dad is the one who made Cinderella's glass slippers. And he ended up then becoming really popular because everyone wanted glass slippers like Cinderella's when she ended up becoming a princess. But as times changed, they ended up getting mass manufacturing, and now all of a sudden his business went crashing down. And so this book starts off with Jillian trying to get food for her family because her family is really struggling with money and they can't feed all of her and her 4 siblings, I believe. And they live in a shoe, which is interesting because he makes shoes, so of course they would live in one. So Jillian has to steal in order to get money or even food or whatever for her family. She gets caught, and in the land of Enchantasia, which is where this is set, if you get caught 3 times as a kid doing things using magic or stealing or whatever, you get put into Fairy Tale Reform School, which was created by Cinderella's stepmother. And so her whole idea was to have this reform school for evil beings to become not evil. And that's the reform school. And so she is the headmistress, and then the people who work at the school are also former villains. So we have Professor Wolfington, who is the big bad wolf. We have Harlow, who was the evil queen in Snow White. Then we have Alva. Alva is the witch who locked Sleeping Beauty in the tower. And then you have Ursula, but it's not Ursula in this book, it's something else. Anyway, but she is the sea witch, and so then she's also a professor there, and she teaches dance from her tank. So Jillian, who goes by Gilly, which it's actually probably Jilly, but I say Gilly for some reason, and which reminds me of like gillyweed from Harry Potter. Yeah. So anyway, she gets into this Fairy Tale Reform School. She ends up getting a room with her roommate Kayla. Kayla's a fairy. And then she meets Maxine, who is an ogre, and she meets Ollie, who is also an ogre, and Jax, who is just like a normal human being, like Jilly. They end up taking classes. There's wand classes, there are Pegasus flying classes, there are psychotherapy classes so that they can stop being evil and start being good. There are things that are like clubs, like they have a dueling club, a fencing club. They have all these things that like a school would normally have, but then with the magic twist in it. The thing I really like about this is that it's not necessarily a retelling of a fairy tale. It is an extension of a fairy tale, and it's in the land that these fairy tales happened, and you see the people that are in the fairy tales or in the movies or stories, but they're different. And I think I like that a lot. I do like a fairy tale retelling, but I like that this is an extension. Now, there were parts that were a little bit predictable, but it was such a good read. It was so cute. I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads because it made you feel happy when you were done, and even when you were reading it. Yeah, there was predictability, but that to me is totally outshined by how good it was to read and just how much fun it was. It is a middle grade read, and it is a fairy tale. They say fairy tale retelling, but it's not a retelling, it's an extension. I don't want to say too much about what happens in the book because I want you to go pick it up and read it, but know that if you do, you're getting into a book that's a quick read and you're not going to want to put it down. I think it was a wonderful book. And then we will move on to Charmed, And Charmed is the second book in the series, and it continues to follow Jillian at the Fairy Tale Reform School, and they're continuing to hunt down this Alva, the one who trapped Sleeping Beauty in the castle and put her to sleep for so many years. So she's out and she is trying to take over Enchantasia, and she's trying to get every citizen in Enchantasia to be on her side, and then also the students of the Fairy Tale Reform School to be on her side. She is basically trying to brainwash them and saying that if you go on her side and you follow her, then they'll be rich and they'll have all the food they need and they'll be able to live well if she gets into power. Now, of course, she's evil and we know that that's not going to happen, but that's what she's telling people. And of course, there are people who are afraid and want to be on her good side, and so they end up going to her side. That didn't spoil anything, I promise. The cool thing about this is that you have the same characters from the first one, but they end up going through a lot more teenagey things that are normal. And I really liked that about this book, because in fairy tale retellings or in fairy tale extension books, a lot of the times authors can forget that they're teenagers and that they might also go through those teenagery things. And there's Duncan. Here's his tail. Anyway, they might go through teenagery things. They might go through, I mean, they're dealing with the hormones. They have the teen angst, and they don't always make the greatest decisions. And I think that I really found that unique about this book, is that Jillian did not make some great decisions in this book. And so by adding that or including that in this book, I think it made it a lot more interesting than if it was just the magic and the fairy tale-esque things. The one other thing I like about this series is that it's not just Cinderella who's they call her the princess, even though she, I guess, technically is a queen. But anyway, it's not just Cinderella. It's Cinderella, Snow White, Rapunzel, and then Sleeping Beauty, who is Rose. And they all live at the castle together. They have their own castles within the castle grounds, but they kind of rule Enchantasia together. And I think that's really unique, and I like that they're all in it kind of together as like a sisterhood. So the other thing that comes up in the second book that is mentioned in the first book is the RLWs, the Royal Ladies in Waiting. It's like a sorority at Fairy Tale Reform School, and you have to be invited to get into the sorority. And Jillian gets invited into the RLWs, the Royal Ladies in Waiting sorority in this book. And again, I'm not going to say what happened, but you'll have to read it and find out. So that is my review for Flunked and Charmed, the two books currently out in the Fairy Tale Reform School series. And I hope you go pick one of these up, both of them up. They are both out now, and I hope you enjoy them. Thanks a lot for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more videos from me, please subscribe. And I will see you guys later in another video. Bye!